Hello, hello. Welcome back to Asia Inspires. I'm Asia Tisdale, a marriage and family therapist associate at the Live Center in Dallas, Texas, here with a good friend of mine, Chris Washington. Chris, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Not a problem. My name is Chris Washington. I'm a licensed professional counseling associate, currently under supervision by Don Zabrowski. You can find me at the Dallas Counseling Center, located here in Dallas, Texas. And thank you, Isha. I work with individuals, adolescents, couples, and families, depression, anxiety, communication issues, adjustments, life adjustments, and things of that nature. So thank you for having me.
Of course, thank you so much for being here. And since we're in Black History Month, it's important that we highlight Black therapists, Black mental health providers. So, once again, we have Chris Washington, who is a licensed professional counseling associate. Um, and we're just going to be talking about love languages because Valentine's Day just passed, and you may feel like that your love is not translating with your partner, with your loved one, whether it's a family member or a friend. So, it's important for us to have conversations like this so that we can improve not just our mental health, but our relational health as well. So we're
Exactly.
going to go ahead and jump right into the questions. And my first question is just since it's the month of love, what would you say are some practical tips for couples to learn and effectively communicate with each other using the love languages?
Well, I think the first thing people would have to do is like find out their partner's love language, whether it be acts of service, quality time, physical touch, gifts, or words of affirmation. So once you're able to identify how your partner responds best, just look for ways in order to show them that you care within those particular avenues, whether it be if it's quality time, finding out a nice place they want to go to, taking them out, just giving them that uninterrupted time that they can really feel appreciated or so.
For sure, for sure. I agree. And I like that you said finding out what your partner's love language is, not just loving them in the language that you feel most comfortable. So I didn't mention in the beginning, but if you're new here, I've already had a video where I talked about love languages. Make sure you check it out. So that you can learn more about like what exactly is love languages, what are the five, and just to go over the five real quick, it's gifts, acts of services, physical touch, quality time, and words of affirmation. And so there are a lot of people who may not be comfortable with one language, but their partner is. And the most important thing, as Chris mentioned, is for us to find out what their language is. So if you go to, I believe it's 5lovelanguagequiz.com or 5lovelanguages.com, and then there's a quiz for you and your partner to take. And then y'all can talk about what are the results? Are they what you expected? Are they what you don't expect? Has your partner been loving you in the language that you like to receive? And keep in mind, it's just a quiz, so it doesn't mean it's 100% correct. But that's a start. Is to take the quiz first, and then talk about how would you like to be loved in that language. And Chris, if you can go ahead and ask your question.
Sure. Like, once you figure out this thing as far as like your love languages, what do you think is the best way to introduce or explain or teach your partner about the different love languages or what your love language is?
I would say just having that conversation, like I said, after I go over the quiz, then just talk about what does that mean to you. To if you're in love, like for example, when I took the quiz, my top was physical touch. So for me, what does that mean? I like hugs. My lowest one is gifts. So I'm more likely to appreciate a good hug on my birthday, and not just with a romantic partner, but with friends too. Like I love hugs. You don't have to buy me a gift. A hug is sufficient, but it's also something that you can talk about in therapy. I know I'm always pushing therapy, but yes, you can talk about the miscommunication between you and your partner in the therapy session. And the therapist can be there to help you guys navigate what that would look like if the two of you were to love each other in that love language.
Right. I think one of the nice things I think I find is taking the quizzes together. Even though you may be aware of what your language is, I think when you go over them again with your partner, it gives them an idea or something visual to see, like, okay, they answered five on that one. Okay, that must be really important. And it can help give them tips as far as like how to best meet your love language in the best way possible.
Yeah, that's a great idea too, to take it together, not just separately. I like that.
And also, I don't think people should feel obligated to, oh my gosh, I got to do all five. Just
Yeah.
concentrate on which one are your high scores, and just look for ways to address your partner's needs in that way.
And I will add, it's a work in progress. You're not going to get it right the first time or within the first couple months of dating, or if you've been together for years. If you realize that you haven't been loving your partner in the love language, it's just like learning an actual language, like learning Spanish or French or sign language or whatever.
Exactly.
It takes time. So be patient with your partner, be patient with yourself. You'll get there eventually.
I agree.
What role does love languages play in conflict resolution?
I think that becomes one of the biggest things as far as our communication. I'm huge on communicating as far as like what your needs are, whether they're being met or not met. So I think in understanding your love language, you're able to see what's going on. And also as a partner, just understanding it may not be what you think it is. So the
Mm,
best way to do that is to find out for sure. And even within conflict, I think one of the things that gets underrated a lot is as far as like understanding your partner's love language when they give it to you. A lot of times when we're stressed, we fall back to our default languages. I
mm,
think you mentioned as far as like the Spanish and working with a lot of Spanish clients, when they're lost for a word, they normally go back to their native language.
yeah.
So in doing that, even if you've expressed, I've told this person my love language is acts of service, if you see that they're stressed or something's going on and they're loving you in a way that's their language, well, excuse me, that it's their language, understand it may be a reason. It's not like they're just being dismissive, but
Mm.
understand that something could be going on that's forcing them to, I can only do one thing at a time. I want to show this person that I love them. All I know is my language at this particular moment.
That's an excellent point. I'm so glad you brought that up because I honestly didn't even think about that, but it's so true. When we get frustrated, we go back to what's most comfortable with us or to us. So yeah, just having that patience with one another,
Exactly.
and acknowledging it, bringing it up to your partner, not in a way that's accusatory or being rude, like you're doing this. Instead, just being like, hey, I noticed that this is what's going on. This is what I would like instead, in a very calm way. Like we practice using I statements. So I feel blank when this happens. This is what I would like instead. So being able to do that can help with utilizing those love languages when it comes to conflict resolution. Because
Yeah.
and also I would add, when you have gotten into a fight or an argument and you're wanting to make up, so to speak, love languages is one way to help. If you're elevated, it's one way to help, bring the
Bring
emotions
everything
or
down.
the relationship down. So if you know that your partner's is an acts of service type of person, and you know his dishes in the sink, and y'all just got in an argument, one way to show that person that you still love them, even though y'all may disagree on something, go in there and wash the dishes.
Right. But
If you
still
know
being
that you're,
present.
I'm sorry, what you say?
No, still being present and showing that I'm still
Mm,
committed to this relationship.
exactly, exactly. So even though y'all may be upset with each other, not talking to each other, but if you love your partner in that love language, you're still showing that you are committed to the relationship.
Right. And I think one of the things that doesn't get a lot of attention are also that's covered in the quizzes as far as like for Dr. Chapman are apology languages. So I think that's another
Yeah.
thing that people need to explore as far as like what's the best way to say it, I'm sorry. So I know we passed Valentine's Day, maybe you didn't do the thing you needed to do and maybe needing to show a partner that you're sorry. I think it's more effective to find out which way they understand it better. Like whether showing restitution, taking accountability, those are that nature as far as like what best way to show that I'm really sorry and I'm doing this, I'm humbling myself, I'm making a change. So taking that quiz also for your apology language, I think is a good resource for couples to do as well.
And I will admit, I'm not as familiar with the apology languages as I am the love languages, but I will do more research on that. But that's an excellent point as well, that utilizing those, learning how your partner likes to be apologized to,
Mhm.
I'm sure it can be a game changer in the relationship.
Right. I think a lot of times we default back to I said I'm sorry, but understanding that person may need you to take accountability in order to be heard. So knowing once again how to hear and how to speak to your partner in that particular time after where there's conflict is very important.
Hmm. I feel like love languages is the preventative for it. So doing something on the front end so that your partner is less likely to be hurt in the future. Whereas the apology languages is more so like, okay, I made this, committed this error. How can I fix it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one question I'll have for you is are as far as like past experiences or traumas that can impact the way someone expresses or receives love? as far as like how they determine their love languages?
Let's see. That's an excellent question. I do believe that past traumas. Actually, can you repeat the question one more time so I can make sure I'm answering?
Sure, it's not a problem. Are there past experiences or traumas that could impact a person's ability to express or receive love within that particular love language?
Yes. I'm trying to formulate my answer in a way that is not very therapist language. But I do feel like I do believe that I personally know people who do not like physical touch because of sexual assault that has happened occurred in the past.
That's very unfortunate.
Um, so traumas like that, or even being abused, words of affirmation may be the language that they desire because growing up they might have been torn down verbally or
Mhm.
not felt like that they're enough. So yes, trauma can, I don't want to say dictate, but it can definitely influence the way that you desire to be loved, the love language that you choose, or even those who maybe mom or dad was working all the time, and so instead of playing with them, spending quality time with them, they bought them things, and so now as an adult, they may feel like the way that you show me love is by buying me things. Cool if you want to go to the movies, go out to eat, sit on the couch and watch TV or whatever, but I really, really like when you buy me gifts. I do believe that our love languages is determined by the way that we grow up.
Mhm.
I don't have any concrete evidence of this, like no empirical based articles on it, but from people that I know, from myself, I do believe that the way that we grow up does dictate the way that we desire to receive love.
Okay, I would agree. A lot of these things are formed in your childhood, as far as like, as you
Hmm.
mentioned, if dad was always working or if someone was verbally abusive. So seeing those things as needs definitely becomes like a sticking point for a lot of people, as far as like, I need this in my adult relationships, and working within that to get that healing or a replacement of something that you did not get as a child.
Yes. For sure. And there are a lot of articles on attachment. That's not what I'm
Exactly.
talking
Yeah.
about. I mean, specifically on love languages and the way that been brought up. I don't personally know of any articles, but if you go look up any type of attachment article, um, those that are scientifically researched, of course, not just blogs of people just talking about what they think they know, then you will find that the way that you grow up is usually the way that you desire to be partnered with a person. There
Hmm.
was a show that I was watching that said that the way that partnered and parent, there's like a letter off as far as the way that you spell it, and the way that you were parented growing up is tend to be the way that you're partnered as an adult.
That's interesting.
Hmm.
And look up for that myself.
Yes. I think that, and that's why conversations like this is so important because some of us may grow up and wonder why we keep choosing the wrong partners or why there seems to be a disconnect between ourselves and a partner, and not realize that it may be the way that you were parented, the way that you were raised may influence it. And it could also be that you and your partner do not speak the same love language and that there is a disconnect.
Right.
And keep
And
in mind that loving your partner love language is not going to make your relationship completely whole if there is some deep rooted issues like infidelity or like, you know, huge communication issues. And those are things that you loving your partner love language is not going to fix.
right. It's just a form of communication, but there's still other aspects of the relationship that matter.
For sure.
And going back to, you mentioned with the attachment theory, the attachment styles, also as people heal and work on their traumas and progress, their love language can change a little bit. Like if they've been able to navigate the issues well with the father being out or working all the time or the mother not being there, once that's addressed, it also can cause a shift in, I guess, how they receive love. So even a partner and working along with them in that healing journey should understand that, hey, me saying this used to work, but now that she's been able to rectify that particular situation or that sticking point that she had, I may need to fall back to her number two or another way to show her that I care or that I love her, because that's no longer something she was lacking because she was able to work through those issues.
For sure. That's a great point, Chris. Thank you for mentioning that. Okay, my last question for you is how can love languages be demonstrated platonically between friends? And can you give a personal example?
I'm sure. I think one of the nice things about the love languages is they also worked on different relationships. They talk about how parents can love their children, how people can work with friendships, because my love languages within a relationship is different than how it is with my individual friends. Because, of course, I may not need words of affirmation from like my road dog, whatever, like when we're shooting hoops or something that I might need from a spouse or romantic partner. So in that particular case, like it may be something like someone needing that support. Hey, good job. It might be something like words of affirmation that you give a person that shows encouragement that they need to, whether it be like a cheerleader or just make sure that they know that you're in their corner. So supporting like your friends and their endeavors and showing things like that, or even like for me, when my friends travel, I require, keyword require, those souvenir spoons or postcards. So for me, even though that's not something I would want from or absolutely need from a romantic partner because they kind of have other obligations or so, I would appreciate that and show a friend, I guess, as far as like if that they were to think of me on a trip to bring me back my spoon or my postcard, that that's their way of showing that Chris, our friendship is important, and I thought of you in order to give you this to make your day as well.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't even think about how it can be different within because I feel like mine is similar with both. But as you were talking, I realized it's slightly different. My
Mhm.
first love language is physical touch, and then my second is quality time.
Right.
Um, when it comes to romantic partners, but then when it comes to even my family, I feel like I'm still it's pretty half and half. Like with family, with aunts, uncles, I'm my parents.
Hmm.
I'm very much so like a oh give me a hug, give me a kiss, and I'm just always on the people that I'm close to, and I also enjoy spending physical or quality time with them.
Hmm.
But when it comes to friends, yes, when we first see each other, we give each other a hug, and then when they leave, we usually are giving each other a hug. But I don't think it's a lot of physical touch in between there. It may be like if we laugh, it may be a touch
Right.
on the
Right.
shoulder or something like that. But physical quality time, I don't know why I keep wanting to say physical time. Quality time is the way that I really like to enjoy my friends. Whether we could just be, I mean, sitting around the table,
Hmm.
not even eating. We don't have to be eating. We just sitting around the table talking, and I'm having a blast with them.
Right.
So yeah, I was thinking that mine is pretty much the same, but it's actually not. One is
Yes.
definitely more than the other.
It may shift a little bit, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I will say I can see it shifting with partners somewhat. I think you're always going to have your first two maybe are probably going to be the highest, but you may have a partner who you haven't experienced words of affirmation with or like quality words of affirmation from a person, and then
Hmm.
this partner really gets it, and you may prefer it from them, but that doesn't mean that if that's number three or four for you, that doesn't mean that that's your top love language.
Right.
It may just
Right.
be that you really enjoy when your partner or your friend hypes you up, like you said, being your biggest cheerleader.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. So my last question for you is: I know we talked about when things are good. I know we talked about, I guess, when things are bad, apology languages. But how do you navigate conflict or misunderstandings in a relationship when you have different love languages?
And that's hmm, yeah, that's a question that I hear a lot when it comes to, and even see it on social media a lot, where people will say, "Well, quality time or physical touch or words of affirmation are just not my thing. It's just I didn't grow up with words of affirmation, so it's difficult for me to give it. I didn't grow up with physical touch, so it's difficult for me to give it. I actually haven't heard a lot of quality time, so I don't even know why I said that. But even gifts, like it's difficult for me to buy this person gifts because I feel like that they're just after my money because maybe growing up that wasn't the thing. I didn't always get everything that I wanted for birthdays, Christmas, or whatever, or maybe they did and they just feel like that it's not necessary. Either
Right.
way,
Yeah. Past experiences build create everything.
for sure, for sure. Um, so with that being said, I would just encourage people to understand that love or relationships, whatever you want to call it, whether even if it's just platonic or familial love, it is about sacrifices. Love
Hmm.
is an action and more than it is a feeling. So you may feel like you love this person, this friend, this family member, this loved one, but if you're not showing them you love them, then you don't really love them. I mean, you may love them, but they're not going to receive that love. So that's where love languages come in. So even though it may be uncomfortable for you to tell this person how proud you are, if you write it down, that's still words of affirmation, right? Take some time out, write it down, send it to them in a text message, an email, a post-it note, or something like that, and that's still filling up their meter. So as difficult as it may be, you just gotta learn how to love that loved one in their love language because as I mentioned in my previous video, if you speak Japanese and then your friend or your loved one speaks German, it doesn't matter that you're comfortable speaking Japanese. You have to convey information to them in the language that they understand. So you speak Japanese all day long. They're not going to understand what you're saying unless
Right.
you speak it in German. And vice versa. That doesn't mean that you're always sacrificing and they don't. They should be doing the same thing for you.
Exactly. I think you mentioned a key thing in all relationship as far as like sacrificing, as far as like this is something you want, putting in the work in order to get it done, and doing what needs to be done to keep the relationship going and healthy. And I think one thing also to focus on is just because you have the same love language, it may not represent itself in the same way. For example, I know people who quality time. For them, quality time is I want to be in your space. This is what we're doing. And for another person, if we're together and working and doing something or involved in some aspect of a ministry or an activity, that satisfies quality time to them. So the other person may think, no, I want one on one. And the opposite, the partner may think, but we're spending time together. We just happen to be doing XYZ while we're doing it. So it's easy to fall back on. It has to be exactly the same way. Of course, we got the same score. But again, it still takes time to understand the nuances of those particular matches and what that person actually means when they say quality time, when they say physical touch, when they say words of affirmation, or when they say gifts. Like knowing exactly what it really boils down to.
And this is why two brains is better than one because that's an excellent point right there. It's like having dialects. You know, if we're talking about Spanish, for example,
Excellent
people who
example.
speak Spanish from Mexico speak it a little bit different than those from Colombia or Venezuela or Argentina. The basis is the same for sure, but if you've ever been around two people who speak the same language but different dialects, and I mean, to be honest, is dialects the correct word? I do believe that's correct.
Yeah,
If it is,
yeah,
forgive. If it's not, forgive me. But where one word means something completely different, it's still Spanish, but it just means two different words because of the region that they grow up in. So, I mean,
exactly.
that's getting real deep in language. But if we think about it in that same way, just like you mentioned, you can have two people whose love language is quality time, but they speak a different dialect. One person, quality time is actually spending quality time doing something together, watching TV together. Nobody's on their phone. We're doing a puzzle together. We are at a restaurant and we're spending time and we're talking. We're not on, scrolling through social media. We're actually engaged with one another. Another person,
Exactly.
quality time is taking a nap together. Another person, quality time is we could both be sitting in front of TV, but neither one of us is watching it. This person's on their phone. I'm on my phone, but we're spending quality time together. So that it is also important for you to speak with your partner to understand what is their dialect. Just
Right. That's a great
listen
example to tie it in together like dialect. Yes.
for sure, for sure. Do you have any recommendations or resources for people who may be wanting to learn, whether about mental health, since you are a mental health provider, particularly for men? I know you don't just see men, but as a man, just out of curiosity, if you have any resources for men or just mental health in general or on love languages.
Well, of course, you go to the when it comes to love languages, you go to the source, Dr. Chapman, as you probably mentioned in your original post as far as like the video, as far as like going there to do the quizzes, whether it be love languages for your partner, for your child, for your friends, or the apology languages. So Google's your friend. There's plenty of resources out there to look up those things as far as like for articles and as we mentioned before, taking the quizzes together with your spouse, with your partner, with your children, because they need love too, and it's best even though you think they don't or they're just a knockoff of me. It still takes time to understand how they look or how they need to be appreciated as well. So yeah, and definitely just reach out on Psychology Today, Black Men Therapy, Black Men Health. So just looking at for those different avenues as far as like, and of course I'll try to put some up on my Instagram page as well. So I'll be on the lookout for that for mental health tips as well.
Thank you. And I will be sure to also in the description box to put your Instagram on there so that they can follow you and reach out to
Thank you, I
you.
appreciate that.
Of course. And like I said, we're both mental health providers. If you're in Texas and seeking virtual or in person, you can reach out to either one of us. Otherwise, just going to psychologytoday.com. Black girl therapy for black girls, therapy for black men, or therapy for black girls.org. I think it's .com. I don't know. I'll put it in the description box as well as therapy for black men. I believe that's .org. Once again, I'll put in the description box. Those are great resources for you to find therapy. And if you're not black, Psychology Today, Therapy Den, Open Path Collective is also some great resources for mental health, whether it's for your relationship or just for yourself.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you once again, Chris, for being here. And
Thank you
thank
for
you
having me.
for tuning in and watching. And we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.